The Catholics of Oz is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
You're listening to episode 108 of The Catholics of Oz. The Catholics of Oz is a show where we discuss faith, culture, and what's been happening from an Aussie perspective. Whether it's synods or science, apostolates and apps, providence or productivity, you can hear it right now on The Catholics of Oz. Hello, I'm Lindsay Sant, and welcome to episode 108 of The Catholics of Oz. So before I introduce who else is here, because we're excited, because it's been a while, Lino Saubolle, how are you today?
I'm good, Lindsay. I'm good. Yes.
We've been manning the mics, defending the podcast, keeping it going.
I guess it's more defending the science section.
The science.
We've had really weird science, but people have been enjoying it. But now people, look, someone's back, and she will definitely fact you out so much that you enjoy hearing about it.
Yeah,
that's all I can say.
Real science.
Yeah, that's
and with
right.
With that in mind, we are so happy and maybe relieved for the grand return of my sister, Caroline Knight, our fellow co-host. Here she is. Caroline, welcome back to the podcast. How are you?
Thank you. I'm so sorry. It's been
Don't
a while,
be sorry, Caroline.
but I am here.
Don't be sorry.
And thank you guys.
It's not your confession. We're happy. We're happy. Yeah.
Yes.
And thank you guys for covering the science. It has been interesting whether you think so or not. I think a lot of people have loved your topics.
We know you're obliged to say that.
So well done. It's true. It's fun. It's fun. Science is fun. If you can't have fun with science, then, it's not fun. It's boring. So, yeah, I like to keep the fun in science, and that's what you guys do. That's awesome.
Thank you, Caroline. Thank you.
So Caroline has had a journey getting back to being behind the mics with us. So every now and then we all go through the ringer, and we all have been through the ringer recently, but I think Caroline has been the most wrung, if that's how you put it. But honestly, it is so good to have you back. This feels normal. And I love catching up on podcasting, but I think it's just the missing link is back again. So
that's right.
No, thank you. I've missed it too. I've missed hanging out with you guys on a Saturday morning too early. It's been I've missed it. Yeah.
Plus with coffee to keep us going.
Yeah, slowly waking up. We're getting there.
No, it's good to be back. Thank you.
Yeah, we're happy to guide you back into how to podcast. We'll show you where everything is. So you remember where the coffee machine is over there, and the microphone's there.
Thank you.
So you're not on mute. So I think we're winning. Got your cup of tea.
Yeah.
Yep.
All good here.
All right. Yeah, let's roll on then. So first of all, if you're new to listening to the Catholics of Oz, you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, or your favorite podcast player. Don't forget to give us a 5-star rating and some positive feedback so that we can hear from you and reach new people, which is what we are all about. SQPN also hosts the Catholics of Oz on YouTube. You can subscribe to StarQuest there, and don't forget to hit the bell and get notifications so that when new episodes of this show and all the other great shows on StarQuest are released, you will know about it. And trust me, you do not want to miss out, because we want to have fun with you with the things that we talk about. So let's move on then, team, and let's talk about faith beyond borders.
Well, I'm actually feeling rather good about this. I think we've all arrived at a very special place, eh? Spiritually, ecumenically.
How do you make somebody love you without affecting free will?
Welcome to my world, son. You come up with an answer to that one, you let me know.
Yes, I had to work very hard to pass Latin and theology.
Oh, quite. Those are, of course, the most important things.
Oh, yeah.
I'd sit this one out, Cap.
I don't see how I can.
These guys come from legend. They're basically gods.
There's only one God, man. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that.
So this podcast it's starting to sound a little bit like the Synod show, because I have brought up things to do with the Synod on Synodality recently. And I guess, in a way, I'm not too concerned about that it's been a frequent topic in the last couple of months, because it's the here and now of the church, right? It's what's happening. And I like to remind everyone, and I have to remind myself of this a lot, that this is not just an event or a meeting happening in Rome, right? That is part of it. But this is the universal church discussing how to be church into the future, which is such an important discussion to have. There's always the risk of church, of even parish, whatever you might want to call it, any level of the church, of becoming stale, stagnant. I'm trying to find a word that means not moving, not doing anything. So not doing all the right things, which is good, but in doing all the right things, not bringing other people into faith in Christ. So yes, the people who are part of the church, part of the parish, whatever it might be, they're being fed, they're receiving Christ in whatever way that might be, through the word, through Eucharist and whatever, but they're not necessarily being encouraged to bring anyone else in, because what we've got is good, so why don't we just keep it this way? But we're not a church that was ever called to keep it this way. We're a church that's called to read, as John the 23rd said before the Second Vatican Council, to read the signs of the time and inject Christ into those times. I've just paraphrased, I've just added a little bit to his phrase there, but we read the signs of the times so that we can help to make Christ known and loved in those times. And so I think the Synod on Synodality is an important move in doing that, from what I've read, from what I've observed, from what I've come to understand. But here's the problem. This Synod is going on for the universal church, but maybe not a lot of people know about it. And maybe sometimes what they do learn about it, they learn from commentators who are not too excited about it, who say some very negative things about it, and we start missing the boat. And people start saying, this is not of Christ, or how can the Holy Spirit be present? Or they're telling the Holy Spirit what to think and then saying the Spirit said it. It's like all this conjecture, blah, 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 whatever it might be. What I've tried to do is follow the essence or the core, go straight to the source rather than looking at what the commentators are saying. Just go trustingly on what's been released, what's being said, and then viewing it from there. Not that I'm perfect, but the thing is I'm trying not to get involved in the controversy, the spin, the I don't know, all the narratives that are made up around the Synod for what it is. So that's my really long intro to say that at this stage, the first session of the Synod, October this year, is now wrapping up. It's just about finished and concluded. The Synod participants are now going to go away for a year and reflect on what they've experienced. And they're going to return again in October next year for more discussion, and then some things will be promulgated and some decisions will be made. There is a synthesis document that at some stage will be released, which means I'll have a lot of reading to do to talk about it in another podcast, but it will tell us where things are at. What I wanted to do, guys, is share. There's a letter that was written by the Synod participants to everyone else, to us, to the entire worldwide church. And the letter is basically a summary of their experiences. From the Synod website, it says the following. This is officially how they talked about it. It said, a draft of the letter was read to applause from Synod delegates during a presentation on October 23rd, according to Paolo Ruffini, president of the Synod's Information Commission. Some changes were then incorporated into the letter before it was voted on and released to the public on Wednesday, 4 days before the conclusion of the October 4th to 29th Assembly. Of the 348 delegates present for the vote, 366 voted in favor of the letter and 12 voted against. So they don't tell us why people voted for or against. It doesn't really matter. Overwhelmingly, this is the letter that they said wanted to be released to the worldwide church to say, here's what's happening. So I thought I might read from the letter, and then maybe we might just respond and react to bits and pieces of it. Are we okay to do that, guys?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Although I say, are we okay to do that? That's what we're doing. So you don't really have a choice. All right.
Lindsay's being polite now.
That was me being polite. Yeah. All right. Or passive aggressive, whichever one you want to call it.
Oh!
All right. Let's go. So it starts like this. It says, Dear sisters, dear brothers, at the proceedings of the first session of the 16th Ordinary General Assembly of the Synod, as they draw to a close, we want to thank God with all of you for the beautiful and enriching experience we have had. We lived this blessed time in profound communion with all of you. We were supported by your prayers, bearing with your expectations, your questions, as well as your fears. As Pope Francis requested 2 years ago, a long process of listening and discernment was initiated, open to all the people of God, no one being excluded, to journey together under the guidance of the Holy Spirit, missionary disciples engaged in the following of Jesus Christ. The session in which we have been gathered in Rome since 30th September is an important phase of this process. In many ways, it has been an unprecedented experience. For the first time, at Pope Francis' invitation, men and women have been invited. In virtue of their baptism, to sit at the same table to take part not only in the discussions, but also in the voting process of this assembly on the Synod of Bishops. Together, in the complementarity of our vocations, our charisms, and our ministries, we have listened intensely to the Word of God and the experience of others. Using the conversation in the Spirit method, we have humbly shared the wealth and poverty of our communities from every continent, seeking to discern what the Holy Spirit wants to say in the church today. We have thus also experienced the importance of fostering mutual exchanges between the Latin tradition and the traditions of Eastern Christianity. The participation of fraternal delegates from other churches and ecclesial communities deeply enriched our discussions. Our assembly took place in the context of a world in crisis, whose wounds and scandalous inequalities resonated painfully in our hearts, infusing our work with particular gravity, especially since some of us come from countries where war rages. We prayed for the victims of deadly violence, without forgetting all those who have been forced by misery and corruption to take the dangerous road of migration. We assured our solidarity and commitment alongside the women and men all over the world who are working to build justice and peace. At the invitation of the Holy Father, we made significant room for silence to foster mutual listening and a desire for communion in the Spirit among us. During the opening ecumenical vigil, we experienced how the thirst of unity increases in the silence of contemplation of the crucified Christ. In fact, the cross is the only cathedra of the one who, having given himself for the salvation of the world, entrusted his disciples to his Father so that they may all be one. Firmly united in the hope brought by his resurrection, we entrusted to him our common home where the cries of the earth and the poor are becoming increasingly urgent. Laudate Deum, as Pope Francis reminds us at the beginning of our work. So that's the first half of the letter. And as you can see, it's quite dense. There's a lot being talked about there. They're trying to contain all of the experiences of the Synod in one. And that's just the first half, or just over halfway. So Caroline, I might throw it to you first. Just what stood out, what thoughts in your reflections on anything from that letter that you heard?
Like you said, it's summarizing. There's a lot in there. You'd have to break it apart bit by bit. But it's a good reflection of what they've gone through so far. And yeah, I think we need to read on, get a bit more, get more out of that. But yeah, I just think, it's a good reflection and it gives us a lot to think about too. It's good that they're able to give us a good kind of summary and information about what they've been through and share that information with us. Yeah,
I think that's for people who don't have time or didn't have time to read the working document before the Synod, and not many people would in our busy lives. Unless you're recording a podcast or you're writing about it, whatever, there wouldn't have been a lot of people who have sat down to read it. So I think the summary is helpful because you can see, as you were saying, that you can see the summary of the topics that they've been grappling with so far, which I think is really good. Yeah. Lino, any thoughts on what you've heard so far?
Yeah, so the part saying using the conversation in the Spirit method. We have humbly shared the wealth and poverty of our communities in every continent. So that sort of what spoke to me, because not every church and community are equal in the money side of things, but it's more the spiritual wealth. I feel that's more. I know they're talking about the money side of it, but I think it's more the spiritual part of it, because some communities and everything need a lot of help in a sense to keep together. They're like small communities of Catholic families who even sometimes live on an island, and they'll like to go to mass and go through everything, and so it's good to see they're all working together in a spiritual way to move forward with their faith. So I like that part of it. And it's, like you said, Lindsay, it's more of a smaller version of what was been going on in the Synod. You and I have been talking about it. But no, there's a lot more they can talk about on that side. But that was part of the Synod meetings we've had. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, for the three of us as lay Catholics who are looking at our church from our everyday life experience, it's good to see, it's good to know what they've been talking about through that summary, because we also have our own reflections on those topics too, don't we? We on this podcast, we've spoken about, for example, it talks about missionary discipleship. I was very pleased to see that language being used at the highest levels of the church. I'm sure it's been used before, don't get me wrong, but the fact that it's still at the forefront of the thinking that as lay people, we are missionary disciples, but we don't necessarily always know what that means. We don't necessarily know where our opportunities to be missionary disciples are, or how you'd even approach that being a mission, even though Christ has sent us to be that through our baptisms.
And usually when you think missionary, you're like, oh, I have to go overseas and help people who are less fortunate. But it's not necessarily the meaning, because you can be a missionary in your own little area and be a missionary for Christ, just doing little things.
So true.
It doesn't have to be grand things.
So true. And some people are afraid of that word, because missionary is also coupled with the word evangelization. And some people, and I would say mistakenly, think that means you need to be out on the streets with a Bible going, have you met the Lord Jesus Christ, your Savior?
Like our local friendly Latter-day Saints and what are the other ones that always come around and I keep telling them, I'm happy, thank you very much.
That's right,
Would you like to come to my church?
Yeah, so true, right? And so I'm happy to see the church is thinking about that. For example, I think my missionary work is in different places, right? It's in my family. Yeah, it's in my parish.
Families. Yeah, definitely in parish as well.
And I think it's in my job as a teacher as well. I always see it as missionary. Not that I'm there to evangelize the heathens, but the thing is, like, that's a very silly way to think.
I've heard that for ages, Lindsay. Sorry.
Yeah, but sometimes when you think you're a missionary, it's I'm better because I've got this thing and everyone else better. It's more, how do I put it? I'm broken, but Christ is with me. And I want to show that in my brokenness, Christ's journeys with me through the way that I try and behave and treat others. Like, for example, sometimes it's so silly, right? But sometimes a student will say, oh, you open the door, you're so nice. And I'm like, and in my head, I'm like, no, that's so normal. You know what I mean? Like, why is that? Like, just these things that, and it's these things that we do with our words and with our bodies, whatever else that is evangelizing. Yeah. So I could talk about this for hours, but I'll digress too much if I do. Yeah, it goes from evangelization and missionary discipleship through to mentioning this is the first time that women have been part of a synod and been able to vote. And we actually, Caroline, we talked about this, I don't know, sometime this year, right? And I was gently making the point that women are baptized and they're missionary disciples, but sometimes in some parts of the church, and this is not a criticism, I think it's just something that's culturally set itself in, right? It's like men and women don't have an equal status as baptized. And some people will groan that I've said that, right? And if you're groaning because things are great in your community, I say good on you. That's great, all right, if you've worked it out.
Yeah.
But remember that this is a worldwide synod, and there are parts of the world and parts of the church who have not got it right yet. You know what I mean? Where there is still exclusion, there is still this thinking of this person is primary, this person is secondary, if that makes sense. So again, I speak because this is a worldwide church, and there are still areas of where women who are baptized, who are missionary disciples, are not being looked at as that, right? That their discipleship is somehow 30% less because they're simply women.
Yeah, it's probably because men can be priests, women can be nuns, and that's about it. Right?
That's all there is, right?
And it tends to be like, oh, so women can't do as much, but women can do a lot in the church. Women can do so many things. There's so many roles. Yeah. And if you're a woman and you want to participate, go to your parish and say, what can I do? Is there something I can do? I think it's improving too. I see a lot of women participation more than before now. Yeah. I think there's a long way to go, but I think we're heading in the right direction for sure.
Yeah, and I think having a number of women at the synod with voting rights as part of the governance of the church is a big step in the right direction, because we need their perspective as well. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, we have a lot to contribute. Yeah. Women and men have obviously different personalities and different ways of looking at things, and if you can get both together, then it's where the church is just going to be richer for it.
Definitely.
So
definitely. What's that saying? Two heads are better than one. But in the sense, it's when men and women work together, it's a great team, and with that team, we can build our faith. Look, all of us are married, and we know that without the other partner, and we won't have that support as much. But we work with each other through it. And of course, we have our disagreements and all that stuff, but we work through it. And it's great to see men and women working in our church and our faith.
Yeah, one enriches the other.
Exactly.
You may be,
exactly. It always
you can learn from each other. That's what I find.
In fact, the letter mentions that complementarity of men and women right there, working together in cooperation as baptized.
Yeah.
So,
marriage is a great example.
Marriage is a great example of that. Yeah.
We are married. There's the faith of our Lord within us, and with that togetherness.
And with marriage, you can't do it on your own, can you? Like, it takes the married couple working together for it to succeed in all of its aspects, doesn't it?
Definitely.
You can't necessarily carry it on your own. And in a way that's symbolic, like you said, Caroline, of the church. We need to listen to all the voices. We can't just do it. You can't just have, and I'm not denigrating men, so calm down, everyone, but you can't have men deciding, but like deciding the spirituality of women, if that makes sense, or deciding.
Because it's one, like I was saying, it's one side.
You need a woman's perspective to enrich that understanding.
Definitely need a woman's perspective.
That's all. Yeah.
Both of us together.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. And we haven't even talked about our common home on the environment. So there's all of that, okay, but
we have opinions.
Having said that, we did talk about Laudate Deum in the last episode, so you can hear our thoughts on that there. Yeah. All right, moving on then. We'll get to the end of this letter. It says, day by day, we felt the pressing call to pastoral missionary conversion. For the church's vocation is to proclaim the gospel not by focusing on itself, but by placing itself at the service of infinite love with which God loved the world. When homeless people near St. Peter's Square were asked about their expectations regarding the church on the occasion of the Synod, they replied, love. This love must always remain the ardent heart of the church, a Trinitarian and Eucharistic love, as the Pope recalled on October 15th, midway through our assembly, invoking the message of St. Therese of the Child of Jesus. It is trust that gives us the audacity and inner freedom that we experienced, not hesitating to freely and humbly express our convergences, differences, desires, and questions. And now, we hope that the months leading to the second session of the Synod in October 2024 will allow everyone to concretely participate in the dynamism of missionary communion indicated by the word synod. This is not about ideology, but about an experience rooted in the apostolic tradition. As the Pope reminded us at the beginning of this process, communion and mission can risk remaining somewhat abstract unless we cultivate an ecclesial praxis that expresses the concreteness of synodality, encouraging real involvement on the part of each and all. There are multiple challenges and numerous questions. The synthesis report of the first session will specify the points of agreement we have reached, highlight the open questions, and indicate how our work will proceed. To progress in its discernment, the Church absolutely needs to listen to everyone, starting with the poorest. This requires a path of conversion on its part, which is also a path of praise. I thank you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, that you have hidden these things from the wise and understanding and revealed them to little children. It means listening to those who have been denied the right to speak in society or who feel excluded, even by the Church. Listening to people who are victims of racism in all its forms, in particular, in some regions, to Indigenous peoples whose cultures have been scorned. Above all, the Church of our time has the duty to listen, in a spirit of conversion, to those who have been victims of abuse committed by members of the ecclesial body, and to commit herself concretely and structurally to ensuring that this does not happen again. The Church also needs to listen to the laity, women and men, all called to holiness by virtue of their baptismal vocation, to the testimony of catechists, who in many situations are the first proclaimers of the gospel, to the simplicity and vivacity of children, the enthusiasm of youth, to their questions and their pleas, to the dreams, wisdom, and memory of elderly people. The Church needs to listen to families, to their educational concerns, to the Christian witness they offer in today's world. She needs to welcome the voice of those who want to be involved in lay ministries and to participate in discernment and decision-making structures. To progress further in synodal discernment, the Church particularly needs to gather even more the words and experience of the ordained ministers, priests and primary collaborators of the bishops, whose sacramental ministry is indispensable for the life of the whole body. Deacons who through their ministry signify the care of the entire Church for the most vulnerable. She also needs to let herself be questioned by the prophetic voice of consecrated life, the watchful sentinel of the Spirit's call. She also needs to be attentive to all those who do not share her faith, but are seeking the truth, and in whom the Spirit, who offers everyone the possibility of being associated with this paschal mystery, is also present and operative. The world in which we live, and in which we are called to love and serve, even with its contradictions, demands that the Church strengthen her cooperation in all areas of her mission. It is precisely this path of synodality which God expects of the Church of the third millennium. We do not need to be afraid to respond to his call. Mary, Mother of the Church, the first on the journey, accompanies our pilgrimage. In joy and in sorrow, She shows us her son and invites us to trust. And he, Jesus, is our only hope. If you thought the first half was dense, welcome to the second half. There's a lot going on there as well. So again, just quickly, Caroline, your thoughts, what popped out to you from that second half?
I just love how they want everybody's voices here. Everybody, the poor, the elderly, the minorities, children, everybody, everyone has a voice. And together we can all, by giving opinions, giving our input, we are all the church, aren't we?
Yes.
It's not just a few people. It's not just priests. It's not just nuns. It's not just people who work in the archdiocese office. It's not that. It's everybody. So it just makes sense that everybody can have some kind of input. Representations from all parts of society can have an input in the church. And it's not to change the church. It's just to have voices and to know what everybody's saying. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. There's nothing to be afraid of. It's not like all of a sudden the practices of the church are going to change, because it's only the one true church that Jesus made, and that is who we are, and that's how we practice our faith. I mean, sometimes there can be little improvements, that can be made to make, say, on the parish level, to make people from certain minorities more welcome, to make children more welcome, to make them feel that they're important in church as well, because sometimes they're just seen as noisy little brats, who keep fidgeting, all of that kind of thing. And I think that's the point of it, more than I have seen some people saying, oh, it's just going to change everything. Look, it's going to make everything different. But I don't think that's the idea.
I don't think that's the idea either.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's just because there are functional things that we can do to make everyone feel more included. And I think that is one point of all of this as well. So I love to hear that everybody can have a voice here.
Great one. And Lino, any thoughts on that second half?
That's definitely. When it says the church also needs to listen to the laity, women and men, Caroline said, it's good to see that the church is listening to other people's voices and everything. And we go into different churches and see how they celebrate Mass. More the connection and all the people of the church listening to other people's voices. And once again, we were just talking before, everyone coming together. And we all know that the word church is not just the building, it's the people around it. And Jesus is the church, and we are sisters and brothers together and children of Christ. And with that, we are the church together, and we are working together to make that our spirituality much stronger. No,
that's great. I think that, this listening to voices, like you said, like you've both been alluding to as well. And this idea that we're not looking at changing the church, like, for example, changing suddenly there's a fourth person in the Trinity and becomes, We're not, nothing like, or tearing down the church and making it something different or whatever. But the whole point is that the church exists in the world, and the church is there to bring Christ to the world. And how are we doing that? Are we only doing it for a certain group of people to the exclusion of other people?
Yes.
Because if we are, then we're not doing the gospel right. We're not doing it properly. Even Christ, look who Christ goes to in the Gospels. He goes to the people who are being rejected by their own religion, by the religion that's meant to be bringing God to them, and they're being left out because they're not pure, they're not this, they're not that, they're just not good enough to be holy, according to these very rigid structures that emerged in their own religion. And so I think this synod is just trying to make sure that we don't put barriers to people entering the church, because there shouldn't be no barrier to Christ at all. If someone is desiring this relationship with Christ, we shouldn't be putting up a barrier so that people can't be welcome anymore. And if we think about it, if you look around your typical parish, just as an experiment next Sunday, look around. Who's there? Only the people that you're comfortable with? You know what I mean? Awkward question, right?
It is.
Who's in your surrounding suburbs that your parish is meant to be ministering to? Does it reach out to all of them, or does it only reach out to a few? And that's not to say that whoever's listening to this, it's not to say that you're the problem, but it's just simply to say that sometimes we get comfortable with the way things are. Definitely. Does not want us to be comfortable. The Spirit wants us to move. And that's the important thing, right? To bring our faith into our surroundings. And the Synod is setting that example for that, is bringing our faith to where we are today. I'm not trying to bring the faith to where we were 60 years ago, because that doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. I'm sorry. But life as we know it is not the same as it was 20 years ago even. It's here and now.
The one word as I'm thinking in my mind is being inclusive?
Yeah.
Or was that a bit too much?
No, it's correct. Yeah, it's correct. The church would use, in Catholic social teaching, we have a word subsidiarity, which is the idea that everyone is able to speak up about their condition in life, not have people speak for them without knowing, just making assumptions, right? But actually hearing from the voices of the people who are in the situation so they can help with the suggestions of the improvements that need to be made. Subsidiarity is, like I said, it's one of our big things. So is our preferential option for the poor. This is all Catholic social teaching based on the gospel. Yeah, so yeah, you're right, Lino. I mean, inclusivity, and I know it's been hijacked a bit by some crazy people to become something else that it isn't. All right, but in the church, inclusivity is access to Christ, access to the church, isn't it? So we've got to look at that. Yeah, all right. I was going to go through, but we haven't got time. I was going to add an Australian voice to this through a letter by Archbishop Timothy Costello. However, we haven't got time, but I will put a link to that in the show notes because he's been writing reflections on his time at the Synod. He's one of the Australian delegates there, and I think it is definitely worth reading. It's not a long read. It's from the Melbourne Catholic, so it's been published right here in the Archdiocese of Melbourne. I'll include that in the show notes, and if anyone would like some further reflections on the Synod, yeah, you can go ahead and read that. I did want to add one more thing, so just very quickly. Some people have been concerned that this is elevate the laity, push aside our ordained priests and bishops and whatever. I do appreciate in the letter that they address that by saying, no, we need their voices too. Again, they have an indispensable role in our church, and we do need to ensure that we're not excluding them by saying, listen to everyone, right? When we say listen to everyone, it really is everyone's voices coming together. That includes our bishops and our priests and deacons and other ordained and consecrated people as well. We absolutely need to work with them and have their voice because they also have a perspective that we don't have as lay people, right? They are embedded in communities and they see things that we can't see. They have a richness of experience that is really important in terms of understanding the spiritual needs of all of their people too. Yeah, that was in the back of my mind. I just had to get that one out as well before we move on. Yeah. All right. With that in mind, let's move on, Caroline. Excited for this because you get to tell to us about science.
What a fine day for science.
You have any hobbies?
I collect spores, molds, and fungus.
Can you reverse the polarity?
I'll do my best.
Science, 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 science. Science, 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 science. Yeah, I like science.
Let's talk about what we have managed to extract from a few asteroids, comets, etc. I might get that wrong. That have been, anyway, near-Earth objects and what we've discovered from those. Over to you.
Yeah, so I thought this time we would talk about the samples from asteroids that we've got so far and an overview of their missions and some of the findings. So basically, just to recap for those who want a good definition, so an asteroid is really a small rocky object that orbits the sun. They're smaller than planets, a lot smaller than planets, and most of them are found in the asteroid belt, which lies in our solar system between Mars and Jupiter. So by studying asteroids, we hope to find out the important information of our solar system and potentially the origins of life and origins of life on Earth. They're thought to be remnants of the early solar system, and they can act as time capsules that preserve life's earliest stages. There have been 3 spacecraft launched that have been tasked with approaching an asteroid and taking a sample, which was then returned to Earth. So it's just a little bit of a history and from back then and to now. So these were the JAXA, or Japan Exploration Agency, Hayabusa mission, which launched in 2003 and took samples from the asteroid Itokawa. These samples were returned to Earth in 2010. There was the JAXA Hayabusa 2 mission, which launched in 2014, and landed back on Earth in December 2020 from the asteroid Ryugu. And then lastly, there was the NASA OSIRIS-REx mission, which has been in the news lately, that had launched in 2016 and collected samples from the asteroid Bennu. Yes, and that one landed in Utah this past September. So these three asteroids, Itokawa, Ryugu, and Bennu, were chosen because of their proximity to Earth. They are all called near-Earth asteroids, which means they're relatively easy to reach with the current spacecraft technology, and it makes it easier to collect samples and return them to Earth for their analysis. They also were chosen because they are carbon-rich, and carbon, as we know, is an essential element for life as we know it, and studying these samples could provide some insights into how life originated. So let's go through these asteroids and a little bit about their background, and then a bit of what they've found on each asteroid. So we're really getting into asteroids today. So yeah, we always
let's put it this way. We're the kinds of people, right? You can have your you can have your movies and your streaming and Nintendos. We love all that stuff too. But if they're live streaming a sample being returned to Earth, we're on that. You know what I mean? So we're on it. Yeah.
Totally.
Get me the popcorn. Yes. Yeah. Give me a couple. I'll watch this for 5 hours. You got it.
If there's a press conference about somebody talking about asteroids, I'm right there. No worries.
Give me a good rocket launch any day.
Exactly. We're totally into that. And we do share when there's a rocket launch and we watch it together online. So it's really good. Cool, apart but together.
I can tell you all about where Starship is up to. I won't, but I could.
We could do that another time. So let's start with asteroid Itokawa, which was an asteroid discovered in 1998 by the Lincoln Near-Earth Asteroid Research Program. And that program ran for 15 years. It was a collaboration between the USA Air Force, NASA, and MIT. Ground-based telescopes were used to search for near-Earth objects. This asteroid is a peanut-shaped S-type, or it's a silicaceous, I think that's how you call it, silicaceous made of silicon, stony asteroid, measuring about 330 meters or 1,100 feet in diameter. And it's thought to be more like a pile of boulders crammed together rather than a single solid body. Yeah, this was the first asteroid to be sampled, and 1,500 regolith dust particles were collected from the surface. These particles were found to contain heated and unheated organic materials and water. They think that the organic material in the asteroid was first heated to about 600 degrees Celsius, and then a further organic material as well as water landed on the surface of the asteroid later on after the asteroid had cooled down. That's why you have a mixture of the heated and unheated. This finding is pretty exciting because it gives insight into how the asteroid evolved and over time, and indicates that asteroids develop chemically in a similar way to how Earth became what it is today. So pretty cool asteroid there. And obviously with all of these asteroids, they never stop studying the particles. There are always research bodies asking for samples of each of the asteroids. So there's always further study, but this is what they've found so far for the asteroid Itokawa. Yeah. And I think it's not very much spoken about, that one. So I thought I'd bring it to the forefront as well. Yeah. So we would have heard of asteroid Ryugu. I think a lot of people who are into this would have heard of it before. And this was from the Hayabusa 2 mission from JAXA. This one measures approximately 900 meters or 3,000 feet in diameter. It's classified as a C and B type carbon-rich asteroid. It's a diamond-shaped asteroid. It spins on an axis like a spinning top and has boulders on its surface, suggesting it was involved in impacts in the past. The Hayabusa 2 craft spent about 1.5 years observing the asteroid before it took samples. Then samples were collected by first firing projectiles towards the surface and collecting the resulting debris, and this was done in 2019.
I think we talked about this, didn't we, as a previous...
We did.
About, like shooting an asteroid and, hoping no one gets angry.
That's
and
right.
Back.
It'll be in one of our past episodes. I don't know the number off by heart.
Very cool.
Episode number off by heart, but we did go into depth. Yeah. They did end up collecting about 30 milligrams of the sample from this asteroid. In July 2021, the samples were extracted and analysed, And upon analysis, they found that the asteroid contained water, carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen, as well as a large variety of organic molecules, including 20 different kinds of amino acids. So we know amino acids are the base unit of proteins, which are very important to life, like in our muscles are made of proteins, plants contain proteins, enzymes. So proteins are pretty important. So it's amazing they found the amino acids on these asteroids.
Yes.
It's quite a significant discovery, I'd say. So in March this year, it was announced that also uracil, which is a nucleotide base of RNA, and vitamin B3, which is niacin, was also found in the samples.
Crazy.
So
wow.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And RNA is an important molecule because it's used in the translation of DNA to protein in our bodies.
And now we have no proof, but it adds to the case that there could be life somewhere else. If all of these molecules and proteins, etc., are common to our universe, it makes you wonder if there are, like, for me, it increases the case that it's possible that there could be life somewhere else as well.
Yeah, if you have perfect conditions like we did here on Earth, there's no reason why you wouldn't have life anywhere else. I totally agree. Yeah. And I guess that's what they're trying to do with missions on Mars, trying to find information about past life and stuff like that. Yeah, it's pretty exciting stuff. And now studying these asteroids, we can find out where the life might have originated from. So yes, the RNA is part of genetic material also found in viruses, which is pretty cool. Oh yeah, but viruses, we don't know if we're actually life form or not yet. That's another podcast.
And we don't like them.
Another day. They can be useful. I wouldn't say we don't like them. They can be useful, but the ones we know of that make us sick are not useful.
Not a fan. Yeah.
Yes. No. And the B3 they found in the asteroid, vitamin B3, is important in humans for obtaining energy from food. So that's another cool thing to think about as well. It's amazing that all of these molecules were found on Ryugu really does carry the building blocks of life and supports the theory that perhaps asteroids played an important role in the origin of life on Earth. It could be the contribution of organic materials from these asteroids added to the chemical components needed to creation. So that's so awesome. Wow, so early Earth getting bombarded by asteroids. Some people think that life started from aliens anyway. We could be alien chemicals, maybe not alien organisms. Yeah.
I've seen that movie. I've seen that. Yeah.
Alien chemicals, maybe alien organic molecules and other things like that.
In a recent episode, Lino and I were talking about the asteroid, the big crater in Chicxulub as well.
Chicxulub,
I've had a lot of fun listener feedback about that. But there you go, an asteroid that's, who knows what was on that contributed.
Yeah, exactly.
Every time we talk about asteroid, it's always or destruction. Wasn't that an asteroid that sort of created life, Caroline?
It does both. Yeah, true. I mean, you don't want to be in its way when it hits.
True.
But it could be contributing your next amazing vitamin that you need in your body. So there you go.
Ouch. Yeah, understand. Totally understand.
Yeah. So the last asteroid I'd like to talk to you today about is asteroid Bennu. So we've heard a lot about this one in the news if you've been following. This one's been visited by NASA OSIRIS-REx mission. It's the first US spacecraft to collect a sample from an asteroid. So Bennu is a B-type carbon-rich asteroid. It has a diameter of 490 meters or 1,610 feet. It's thought that it's a primitive asteroid which hasn't undergone much in the way of geological change since its time of formation, that's another good reason to have it as a target. It was probably formed in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter after breaking off a large asteroid between 700 million and 2 billion years ago. Wow. And this asteroid is actually on the Century Risk Table, which means it's actually a potentially hazard object to Earth.
Oh,
According to NASA, we may be getting a very close-up view of Bennu in about 159 years. So
not too close, I hope.
Hopefully it's not that close.
Yeah. Wow.
Bennu makes a close approach to Earth every 6 years and has had 3 near-Earth encounters in 1999, 2005 and 2011. And scientists currently estimate a 1 in a 2,700 or 0.037% chance of Bennu impacting Earth by 2182. So maybe might probably miss. NASA explained that while the chances of hitting Earth are very low, Bennu remains one of the two most hazardous known asteroids in our solar system, along with another asteroid called 1950DA, which they haven't given it another
It's a terrible name.
Yeah.
Terrible name.
Yeah.
They should call it, I don't know, Angry. Something close by. Anyway, that's just to the top of my head name. So since the sample of these asteroids have only just been returned to Earth, it'll take some time for us to know the exact chemical composition of the samples. But the first look at the sample could be seen on the container lid and base when it was retrieved, and it showed a fine-grained dark material. 250 grams of the sample was collected, which is the most out of all the asteroid missions so far, and more than NASA was expecting to collect, because before the sample canister was stowed away after collection, samples actually seen leaking out of it, and they were a bit worried.
Yeah.
Yes. So I remember when NASA collected the sample, they used a robotic arm to touch the asteroid and shoot some nitrogen gas onto the surface. I'm pretty sure we spoke about this as well. They were thinking that the asteroid wasn't going to be as soft as it was, and it blew much more material into the air than they were expecting, and yeah, they managed to collect quite a bit.
Yeah.
Wow.
There is some great footage of this sample collection, and there is a link in the show notes for this one. There's just a quick YouTube video, so you can have a look.
I recommend anyone to watch it. It is very cool. Yeah.
It's really cool. It's really cool. Yes, totally cool. Lately, actually, NASA, I think it was October 10 or 11 this year, recently, NASA did a press conference to talk about the preliminary finds that was taken from the sample Bennu, and they found that the sample is made up of hydrated clay minerals, meaning they contain water, and they're made up of dust and large-sized particles. They also found that there's iron oxide type minerals as well as carbon and organic matter when they looked at it using fluorescent microscopy. And they said the sample was described as an astrobiologist's dream. So it's made up of a whole concoction of everything that could be beginnings of life. And all of this is actually from the sample that's outside the canister. They haven't actually opened up the canister yet because there's so much stuff on the outside that they're very meticulous about collecting every single particle first. So, yes, they will be first doing that and then opening the canister and then having a go for it. And then they'll be open up for submissions by various scientific groups who can apply to have some sample and do some studies. But I thought I'd also mention that OSIRIS-REx didn't land back here. It actually kept going into OSIRIS-APEX.
Yeah, it's still out there.
That's it. And it's going to the Apophis asteroid to sample that one as well.
Cool.
Then I thought I'd quickly mention a couple of other quick asteroid missions. So the Lucy mission is coming up.
Yes.
That will be following a group of Trojan asteroids that actually follow the orbit of Jupiter around the sun. Wow. So it's currently on its way there. It wants to actually do some asteroid hopping, so going from one to another, which would be really cool. Yeah.
I was going to say, it's like island hopping we have, it's asteroid hopping.
Asteroid hopping,
Asteroid hopping.
Cool.
And then another really cool one is the Psyche asteroid, which is thought to have a high composition of metal, probably nickel.
Oh, nickel.
And that will be launching, if it hasn't launched already, soon. I think did I see that launch? I must have. So, yes. Pretty exciting. They're calling it asteroid autumn in NASA at the moment because there's so much asteroid science going on. The planets, everything is exciting when you're talking about space. And even these little simple asteroids, they're not so simple after all, as we're finding out. So, there you go.
Love it. That's so good. You can just imagine being a scientist who is working on the OSIRIS-REx like samples, and I don't know how you're not excited every day you go to work. I don't even know how you'd go home because you'd just be buried in that. Just the excitement of every discovery is something exciting. Yeah,
it's true.
It is.
Yeah, I love it.
And that's why I love watching NASA press conferences too, because all the scientists are just so excited.
Yeah, that's right. They're all energized.
They just make you excited as well. Yeah. And it's so great. And the science is great too. They love to explain simply things that they're finding or hope to find. Yeah, really good.
Wow.
I just wanted to add as a side note quickly on a slightly different topic. We had a question in our Discord about Jupiter. We might look at that next episode unless you want to say something about it quickly now, Caroline, or do you want to do a bit more homework about Jupiter being the vacuum cleaner?
I could do a little.
Just in 30 seconds, is Jupiter the vacuum cleaner or not?
I could do it. I could do it in 30 seconds.
Go for it.
So basically, yes, Jupiter is thought to be the vacuum cleaner of our solar system. It has such a great gravitational pull that it pulls anything that is remotely close to it.
Wow.
It has about 92 moons, so that just shows you what power it has. And that's basically, yes, it'll bring anything close to it. The other side of thing is the gravitational pull is so strong that it could fling stuff into the middle as well. Yes. But basically, it is thought to be the vacuum cleaner, and it probably does protect the inner planets from large objects that could otherwise just sail past and crash into us. But yeah,
so
there you go.
It's like one of those vacuums with the reverse button. It can both suck things up but also blow things out.
Blow things out.
That's it.
That's cool. Thank you for that. The other thing, like the fascinating thing we've talked, I'm sure in a previous episode, we talked about how our Jupiter is not in the typical place you might find a Jupiter-type planet.
That's right. Most Jupiter-like planets are called hot Jupiters because they're close to the sun.
That's correct, yeah.
You could call it maybe miraculous thing about our Jupiter. It is in one of the outer planets. And, being the vacuum cleaner, you can see how it does something amazing for our planet, being like a bodyguard, I guess, protecting from anything.
Could you say it's contributed to the fact that we're here at all, or in some way, or is that going too far?
That's something you can ponder, isn't it? I mean, you can really think about. Earth is just the fact that we're here, the place where Earth is in the solar system. It's like the Goldilocks thing. Yeah. It's not too hot, not too cold. If you look at Venus and you look at Mars, they both potentially could have life on them if their conditions were better. Potentially they did have life, but Mars doesn't have such a great magnetosphere for some reason, and the atmosphere gets blown off. It's mostly carbon dioxide. There's evidence that there could have been water there. What happened to it? And then you look at Venus, it's got sulfurous clouds. It's hot. It's the hottest planet in the solar system because of the thick atmosphere. But when there were landers, the Russian landers actually a while ago landed there, they found that there were geological features that looked very much like what was on Earth as well. There's no life there that we can see. So these are fun things to think about, really. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Thank you for that. I put you on the spot. Thank you for that.
You
So
it's fun to think about.
Now, normally we would spend some time talking about entertainment. We're getting very close to the end of where we should be because we're trying to keep it within an hour. So everyone in a sentence, one thing that's entertaining you very quickly. Caroline, I'll go to you first of all. All right, put you on the spot.
I have been watching YouTube videos about pugs because we have a pug and about grooming dogs and about the show called It's Me or the Dog, where there's that lady trainer, Victoria, helping people to train their dogs because they are way out of control. So there you go. It's been very YouTube videos about dogs, basically, and always about Egypt and stuff as well. There you go, ancient history documentaries.
So now we know the real reason why Caroline hasn't been podcasting with us lately.
I've been watching a lot of things about dogs.
All right, Lino, in 10 seconds, what have you been up to?
Picard.
Entertainment-wise. Picard? Oh, you're watching Star Trek Picard?
Yes, we are. Okay. I'm just quickly just saying Bernadette, some of the characters and everything. Yes, we started from season 1 and season 2. We're almost end of season 2, but I like them both. I'm waiting for season 3.
Nice. Season 3 is the creme de la creme of Picard. It's just so good.
Yes. I like them all.
Can't wait. Can't wait for you to watch season 3. And really briefly, all I'm going to say is Bosch is back, baby. All right. So Bosch Legacy season 2, they released 4 episodes to start with and then 2 episodes per week now until the end of the season. So I just feel so right.
What does that stream on again?
It's on Amazon. Yeah, it streams on Amazon. Yeah.
Okay.
I like it. It can be quite gritty, just warning everyone, but I just love the characters, love the show. Dom was the one who put me onto it. He spoke about it on Raising the Bets years ago, and it was lockdown. I needed something to watch. I tried it, and I was hooked instantly, and I've been loving it since. And when SBS denied me the opportunity to watch it, Dom, by the power of Plex, gave me access. So bless him. That's an act of mercy right there. Yeah, loved it. All right. So with that in mind, yeah, let's put an end to it right there. So we want to thank you all so much for joining us for episode 108 of the Catholics of Oz. Now with added Caroline. But before we go, we'd like to take a moment to thank. With added Caroline, yep, with a dash of Caroline, yep, and we'd like to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Catholics of Oz. Today, we would love to thank Anita H., Greg B., Jonathan A., Luke E., and Tim and Marie M. Through their generous donations at sqpn.com/give, they make it possible for the Catholics of Oz and all of the other shows on StarQuest to continue. And you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. And as always, please keep us in your prayers because that is just as important as the financial contributions that keep this network going. Also, we'd love to know your thoughts about the topics we've discussed today, and you can send us feedback by visiting sqpn.com/Oz, where you can also find our show notes. And don't forget to sign up to the SQPN Insiders Club newsletter to get updates about what's happening with the network and what's happening on your favorite shows. sqpn.com/about/newsletter. And if you'd like to link it up with us on any of the socials, Facebook.com/StarQuest Media is where you'll find us on Facebook, Twitter or X. I don't know what I'm supposed to say now, but just at SQPN. And also Instagram, look for the StarQuest. Yeah, look for StarQuest. And then we have our own Catholics of Oz Facebook page, facebook.com/Catholics of Oz, spelled OZ. And you can also, Discord, discord.sqpn.com/Discord. Come join the community there. That's where we get quite a few science questions, which we love. So please come there and join the science discussion. Some of them I can't even keep up with because there are some really amazing scientific minds on Discord in our StarQuest Discord. Sometimes, I know what they're talking about. Other times, like, yeah, this guy's really smart. So really fascinating what you learn there as well. Or you can reach us at good old email, catholicsofoz@sqpn.com. Caroline, so great to have you back on the show again. Thank you so much for being here and for all the insights you've given us. Yeah.
Thank you.
And Lino Saubolle, so great to have you with us as well.
It has been a total blast. And for you, Lindsay, Bosch is back again.
Yeah.
Bosch is back. Yep. Tell a friend. Bosch is back. Bosch is back.
It had to come out.
Sorry, I had to do that. Yeah. I'm okay. I'm okay now. I'm not laughing so much, but yeah. Take care, everyone, and God bless. And yes, thank you, Caroline.
God bless everyone.
We've missed
Thank you.
So
Thanks, guys. I missed being with you guys. I did. Thank you. It's been really fun to be back. Thank you.
And once again, I'm Lindsay Sant. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 108 of the Catholics of Oz on StarQuest.
Here's another show on the StarQuest network you're sure to enjoy, Pray Station Portable. Find it wherever fine podcasts are found or at starquest.fm/PSP. We'd like to thank Patrick McCaffrey of Moonshadow Studios for editing this episode. To have your audio edited professionally and with care, check out more of Patrick's work at moonshadowstudios.biz. That's moonshadowstudios.biz.